What's good, everyone? Today I'll be here to go through my round 13 AFL tips and predictions, as well as going through round 12, and we've officially reached halfway in terms of the halfway point of the AFL season for tips, which means later on this video we'll be announcing the mid-season winner for the tipping comp. Last week I did quite well in my footy tips. I got a total of 6 out of 7. Honestly, probably the best I've done comparative to everyone else. Now, if you had a look at the Thursday game, I tipped the Lions by 10. But in my video, I tipped them by 18. So I don't know why I didn't tip them by 18. The one time I wish I did tip the right margin, but I got that first game right. Collingwood smashed Hawthorn. They were way too good. Good tip to get right there. This was a very, very good tip to get right, though. To get Fremantle to beat Gold Coast, only 4% went for the Dockers. So really happy with that. The Giants only just beat the Tigers, but the Tigers deserve that win. Adelaide absolutely obliterated Sydney. Melbourne lost to St Kilda, so that was my only tip I got wrong, and it was my own team. I should have just backed us in. Look, in hindsight, I should have. And then Geelong beat West Coast. So the buys for the week were Carlton North, Port Adelaide, and the Bulldogs, as we've got Fremantle and St Kilda being the buys for this week. So it's now time to reveal the winner for the $100 prize in the mid-season tipping comp. And total score, we take a look, and it is Owen 32 with a score of 92 and a margin of 171. Congratulations, you have won the $100 prize for the mid-season tipping comp. You got Samit Bahani with 91, Kathy Foden, Harley 10, and Riley Fitz 72. I'll put my details up the top. If I can find your email address myself, I'll try and contact you, but if not, just contact me if you're watching this video. I'd assume you would be watching the video. Best scores for round 12, we had Tony Star 16 using his Joker and getting a score of 6 with a margin of 7, getting the double points. And we had 6 people actually all getting a score of 6 there, getting the doubled. Joshy Elbert, Luke of the Goat, Paul Mick, and Sammy Ferg in the top 5. With the best scorers who didn't use the Joker, we only had 2 people get a perfect score, so it was a bit of a tough week. Benny Campbell's the best tipper, getting an extra point, scoring 8. Margin of 3. Jados with a margin of 7. B. Goggin, Jason Arias, and Bombers 37. Honestly, I should be where Jason Arias is, but unfortunately, I'm down a little bit more to 96. But realistically, I should have been up because I did tip them correctly by 18 points. Now, looking at fantasy for this week, the reason why I didn't do great was because of the fact that it was a bye week. I had so many players not playing, as you can see right here, and the ones that did play, like Riley Bice, didn't do enough. So if I didn't captain Baz, it could have been a whole lot worse. I went down in the rankings, but I'll definitely be up in the rankings next week. I'm 102nd now. I'll be up next few weeks. And for you guys that haven't already, I did go to Alice Springs over the weekend watching the Melbourne v St Kilda game. If you want to see what an AFL experience is like, the full experience in Alice Springs, and check out my latest video. First link in the description. It'll be, one of the better vlogs on the channel. You guys will enjoy it. But let's get through now to the big calls of last week. Let's see how I did. I was awfully close with all of my big calls. I said that there'd be 3 or less goals scored in Brisbane Essendon in a quarter. That was very close to happening. Jack Ginnivan almost recorded 4 goals. West Coast were almost in front in the second half. Freo almost kicked 5 goals in a row, but ultimately, the only one I got right was in Sydney v Adelaide, where I said combined there'd be 8 more goals than behind. So thank you, Adelaide, but big fuck you to all the other teams for screwing me over in my big call. And we have to take a look to see which punishment got the most likes. Oh, for fuck's sakes. I almost feel like that's a bit too excessive for a tipping punishment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do Speedy's Cricket's comment, and that's eat as many hot dogs in a footy game as possible. However, for J Tomo's sake, if I don't get 2 or more big calls correct for this week, then I'll do the buzz your hair and dial up Rory Lobb, and I'll also do whatever comment gets the most likes that's appropriate for this week. So the reason why I'm not doing this week was because I need to anticipate the fact that it's happening, and I already buzzed my hair for a tipping punishment. I don't like repeat punishments, and it's almost too much. So 2 or more, I just need to get 2 or more this week. I'm not doing that. If I don't get 2 or more, I'll do that as well as the most liked comment. Well, anyways, with that all covered, remember, round 12 voting is open right down below for the Cardi medal. Put in your 3, 2, 1 best plays for every game for round 12, like every other week. And at the end of the year, we'll be doing a big awards night live stream. We'll be going over some of the best plays and overall doing a bit of a Brownlow count. So get voting, links in description. Make sure to vote. I want voters, and I also want you guys to check out my Alice Springs video. And another thing that I want, I want everything this week. I want to get to 53k subscribers. So most of you guys are watching that haven't subscribed yet. I've got some super cool things coming out the next few weeks. I'll be playing in Adelaide on Saturday that I'll talk about more later, but make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 53k, and let's just keep on grinding to 60. Right, let's start things off on Thursday night. I'm still shaking. I'm actually really nervous now. I've got enough forfeits I need to do already. I don't want to shape my hair and dye it blonde. I'm going to look like an absolute idiot. But the first game we do have on the Thursday night is the Bulldogs take on Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium. I'll probably stream this game up with a bit of footy, so definitely stay tuned for that one. And this game, now, we thought probably at the start of the year that this would be most likely a Hawthorn win, given their hot start to the year with 4 wins and the Bulldogs that are injuries. We didn't really know how they were going to go, but form turnarounds now. Hawthorn will need to play their very best to get any chance of winning this game, because they've been extremely out of form now. It's 3 losses in a row, but the way they've lost their last 2 have been really concerning. They've been second to the footy. They were really poor with pressure, minus 45 tackles. And the Dogs are now going to be well rested after the bye here, so the Dogs are in some really good form. I know they lost against the Cats before the bye, but that game you could argue they should have won with their inaccuracy, the umpires being pieces of shit, and they scored 113 points. They're one of the highest scoring sides in the competition, and they've got one of the best midfields in the comp. So if something isn't addressed midfield-wise for Hawthorn's sake, they'll get absolutely bullied, I feel like. And missing Will Day, he's the barometer. He would have been handy to have in there. He's not in there. Hawthorn are also due a response after some poor footy, but I think it's just going to be too hard to tip against the form team right now, who will just be tougher at the footy, and I think will just be more dominant up forward and in the midfield. So my tip for this game, I'm going the Bulldogs to win it by 20 points, and I reckon that Bont, Libba, and Kennedy will combine for 5 or more goals. All right, next up we have Adelaide, Brisbane, Friday night footy, and this is one of the better Friday night games. I'm really glad that I'll be able to attend this one. I'll be in Adelaide for those couple of days, and we're set to watch a thriller, really. Both sides are in top 4 form. Both sides looking really dangerous this season, especially Adelaide, though. Adelaide were awesome against Sydney. I thought before the year started that they were going to be a possible top 4 side, and they've certainly proved my point right so far this year. They pantsed Sydney. It was an absolute smashing, and they didn't really need any stars to stand out. Like, it was a kind of an even performance. All of their players played roles. Their top disposal getter was Neil Bullen with just the 25, and they had 14 individual goal kickers. So that's something Matthew Nicks will be really, really pleased about, I would have thought. And Mark Keane had one of the more underrated games as well. He had like 9 or 10 intercept marks, I'm pretty sure. It was a very, very comprehensive win. Yes, Sydney were really poor, but Adelaide, they're now, I think, the highest scoring side in the competition, if they have been already. And they've just been consistent for most of this season. They really haven't had a bad game, so I think they're going to have another big one against the Lions. The Lions are a hard side to beat, though. And it's a weird one for Brisbane because they're second, but I've said it a few times, they haven't been the most convincing, and once again weren't so against the Bombers. They're kind of winning games, but they're not really cruising. Now, they started really well against Essendon. We thought, okay, this is one of those games where it'd just be a matter of how many points they win by. And then they had a poor rest of the game until the last, where they finished the game quite professionally. So it's weird with Brisbane. They've been shaky in some of the poorer sides this year, but people forget that they have a really strong record against the top 8 sides this year. The Lions just about arguably the best in the competition. I think we'll get a high scoring, really exciting game of footy, but I think because at the Adelaide Oval and because of Adelaide's form, I'm going to back the Crows in a bit of a thriller. I'll be at this game, probably wanting the Crows to win as well, and needing to get some of these big calls right. Remember what's on the line. So I'm going to go Adelaide by 7. A big call, 205 more combined points throughout the game. Next game on the Saturday, and what a game this is set up to be. Richmond take on Sydney, and somehow this game has become a tough one to tip. Like a genuine game that could go either way. Richmond, I watched all this game against the Giants, and I was expecting them just to get absolutely smashed, but it wasn't the case at all. They played, I think, their best game of footy. Definitely their first 3 quarters. Very, very professional, very convincing. Unfortunately, they just faded away in that last. They definitely deserved that win, though, but unfortunately, it was just that last quarter fade out because they played better footy for longer, and their inexperience late would have been a bit of a factor, and ultimately, their poor kicking probably cost them. I think they had like 17 behind, so disappointing that they couldn't get the win, but I want to say Hopper, Taranto, Prestia, they were very good in the middle, and it was a really good performance from the Tigers overall. Their rebuild feels like it's progressing much quicker than what we initially would have expected, but yeah, they would have wanted a win there, but they're going to have a bit of hunger now, and they're playing Sydney, who are in terrible form. They're out of the finals race altogether now. I don't think they're a chance at all at making the top 8, and it's a matter of whether they finish bottom 4 or not. Now, they were just terrible. They had their worst loss at the SCG in over 20 years. Their effort was nothing short of weak and deplorable, and they're in some disastrous form because you got this 90-point loss. You had the loss against the D's by 50 the week before, and I think there was another bad one in there as well. So, on paper, you look at Sydney's squad, the side that made the grand final last year against Richmond, who are so, depleted with their players. You'd think on paper they win this by a fair amount and they bounce back, but I think the Tigers, they just have the hunger from last week. Noah Bolter, it's a day game for him, so he doesn't have to worry about being in bed. He can play in this one. I think they're going to have a really hard game here, the Swans. And if they can't get up in front of their 2005 Premiership squad, what makes me believe they're going to do any better this week? Like, their efforts aren't going to be as bad, because let's be honest, if that same Richmond from last week played the same Sydney from this week, Richmond win by freaking 10 goals. I'm going to say the Tigers start off really strong. They fade away a little bit, but they just hold on. And I'm going to go the Tigers in this one by 5 points with my big call that the Tigers lead for 75% or more of the game. Righty on, we have the next game, Saturday twilight. Geelong take on Gold Coast at GMHBA. And I'd probably say that this is Gold Coast's best chance to finally get a win at GMHBA Stadium. But once again, it is going to be a tough one, and 92% of people are going the Cats, probably for right reasons. Cats were challenged last week against the Eagles in a game where I wished I watched, but the Motel's TV in Alice Springs wasn't working. So yeah, big fuck you to the Motel TV for not working when I wanted to watch the game. But from what I saw in the highlights and what people told me, it was one of those games where the Cats were challenged against a really good West Coast side for most of the game, but then they had that professional win late where they kicked 3 or 4 goals late to sort of make the margin look better than what it probably would have been for most of the game, and West Coast probably played better than what a 44-point margin suggested, but ultimately the Cats are just a really good side, and Jezza Cameron right now is in insane goal-kicking form. His last 3 or 4 games, he's kicked like 20 goals. He's top of the common, I think, on 38. Or maybe 33, I'm not sure. Smith is in Brownlow form. They had another really good game, 25 touches up till half time. And Brian Myers had one of his better games as well, playing sort of that wing position. So I think ultimately this is going to be a really tough one for the Suns to win. They messed up a huge chance against Freo for that chance of being in the top 4. They still have a chance, but these are sort of games I feel like they probably want to win, the Suns. And I wouldn't say the weather helped for sure. They were chasing tails most day despite challenging the Dockers. I think they're going to need to really put up a full 4-quarter performance. So you needed, Anderson to have a massive game. You needed Rao to have a massive game. You needed the forwards to actually work and connect. So I think they're good enough to win here, the Gold Coast Suns, but I just feel like at home, you're just going to have to back in Geelong against Gold Coast at home. Every time it seems to be the case, the Cats win by a lot. I think they'll be more competitive. Clearly, the Suns have been a better side this year, but I think they'll be too mature, the Cats. So I'm going to tip the Cats in this game by 25 points. My big call, Geelong win every quarter. Next up, Saturday night footy, we have a GWS taking on Port Adelaide, and I will be watching 0% of this game, and the reason for it, we'll quickly give it a plug. The Div 12 Resi's State of Origin South Australia v All-Stars games happening on the Saturday night, and I've been lucky enough to be selected to play in the game, so definitely tune into the live stream. I wouldn't even bother watching the game. This game's going to suck anyways. We'll obviously preview it still. If you're in Adelaide, kids get in free under 16s, and $5 if you're over 16. Norwood Oval, so a proper AFL ground, and you get to see some of the biggest stars line it up. Like, you'll see me get absolutely fucked over by Mitch Robinson in the midfield, probably. So, yes, if you want to watch it, link will be in the description. I'll put in Marmalade's YouTube channel. It'll be a live stream. I'll promote it more on the channel. But, yes, it'll be on at the same time as this game, so I'll be watching none of it. Now, Port Adelaide, they're off a bye, and it could perhaps restart what has been a horror season for them. They're 15th on the ladder with a percentage of 79.1. But I just can't see that being the case. 3 of their last 4 games have been losses by over 50. Their game against Freo, I think it was that second half, just another second half fade out, which has been the story of Port season for most of it. And disappointing once again just to let themselves drop off like that. I feel like this could happen again in a game like this. The Giants last week, I can't lie, they didn't deserve to win. They were really, really averaged, honestly. Richmond were just all over them for most of the game. But I think the main reason they won was because of Richmond's inexperience, and Callan Ward, unfortunately, he is out now, probably won't play again because of his ACL injury. His messages that he would have given to the playing squad at 3/4 time, given the adversity was through himself, he still wanted to favour the team over himself. I'm almost certain that the plays, lifted a little bit extra more for Callan Ward. Whatever he said at 3/4 time got them over the line, and fair enough to Giants. Sometimes you just got to win games you don't deserve to win. That was definitely one of them. I didn't expect Port Adelaide to have the ability to lift like Richmond did during most of the game last week. I think it's just going to be another pretty average game for Port, and it's just going to be a matter of when are you going to get rid of Ken Hinkley. If the Giants start hot early, then I think they run away with a big win, and I think that might happen. And you never know. It is at Manuka. It could be one of those upset performances from the Power, but the Giants really need to get back to some good form, and against Port Adelaide, I think they will. So I'm going to go the Giants by 45. My big call that the Giants lead by 60 or more points at any stage of the game. Next up, we have on the Sunday, Arvo, 120 if you're in WA, 320 in Melbourne. North Melbourne take on West Coast Eagles. Now, this game I think is going to be a very interesting one. Obviously, two of the sides that are lower down the ladder, 17th and 18th. I feel like the loser of this game could well and truly be the favourites for the Spoon. Now, I will be going to this game. I know you guys are probably thinking, how are you going to get from Adelaide to bloody Bunbury in the matter of 12 hours? I have my ways, but remember, I am trying to head to every stadium in the country this year, so this game I'll be in attendance of it at Hands Oval in Bunbury. It's going to be a really cool one. You'd be a unique experience, unique vibes. It'll be one of those rare instances where West Coast and North are going into a game believing they can actually win. And in fairness to West Coast, they've actually had a much improved month. We won't talk about the St Kilda game. The Adelaide game wasn't great, but they played alright against the Cats. The scoreboard certainly didn't reflect how good they played for a lot of that game. Harley Reid kicked a really good goal in that second quarter. And I reckon for half that game, they were the better side, or they looked like it at least. But Ultimately, they weren't good enough, but I think they can definitely beat North Melbourne here, who are the favourites. 82% of people going North. I think that's a little bit too much because North should be better. Like, on paper, realistically, they are a better side than North Melbourne. However, that last quarter before the bye against Collingwood, when I was there, where they conceded 8 goals, it puts them 2 steps back. That really, really would have flattened them. And hopefully the bye resets a few things for North, that they can pick up a few more wins, because they should be aiming for an 8-win season. Before the bye, only the 2 wins and a draw. Pretty disappointing. I said they're better side than West Coast, to be honest, but it's in Bunbury. And I know it's weird because it's a home game for North, but this suits West Coast because it's more going to be West Coast crowd. So I feel like the Eagles might win this game. They might run over North, with the North having another poor finish like they have in previous years. I think it'll be another close game. North v West Coast always take part in thrillers, but I'm going to back in the Eagles in this game. I'm going to say the Eagles win it by 14 points, and I reckon my big call will be the Eagles will win after trailing at 3/4 time. Sunday night footy, we have the annual King's Birthday Eve game between Carlton and Essendon, and once again, another one between 2 similarly average sides. Carlton, they pretty much have no lifeline now. This is basically just every win now you got to do after the bye if they want any chance of finals. They've got a good percentage, so that's the one good thing, but they simply cannot drop a game like this, but you never know, they might. I feel like Essendon would definitely give themselves a chance in a game like this, which would honestly put them 7-5 and still a possible chance of finals. They did start really badly against Brisbane. Like, no one really thought they had a chance given a lot of their outs and all that, but they started terribly. It was a 6-1 goal first quarter. But then they looked really good. They looked dangerous. Nate Caddy had a really, really good game. I thought, Caldwell was good in the midfield. Martin Merritt just looking the goods. And I thought they were honestly going to get up, but unfortunately, the experience of the Lions were the better of the 2 sides, and they ended up getting the win. Hugh McCluggage, I forgot to mention him in the earlier game between Adelaide and Brisbane, but he was outstanding. I just think in a game like this, between these 2 sides, I think Carlton have a little bit more to play for, and I just think they'll find enough to get over the line. They're the better side on paper, and they do have the wood over Essendon in these sort of games. 4 of the last 5 games between these 2 sides have been won by the Blues. The Bombers are still lacking key plays in their team, particularly down back. So I think either a Kerner or a Mackay could possibly feast on the Essendon defence. And I'm going to say the Blues win this game in a decent one by 18 points. My big call is that Charlie Curnow kicks 5 more goals. Last game of the round, we have Melbourne take on Collingwood. And once again, I don't have a Melbourne scarf. And I haven't got this year's Big Freeze beanie yet. Look, I probably should have had the Big Freeze beanie by now, but I'll obviously eventually get one. And I should probably also get myself a Melbourne scarf. Now, it's the final game of the round. It's probably the most significant fixture. However, I don't think it's going to be a good game. I really don't think it's going to live up to the expectations. Collingwood, their level's above the rest of the competition, and they showed it against Hawthorn. They were just way too good. Some are saying that they played the perfect game, which in ways that they did. Their forward pressure was outstanding. Elliott and Sidebottom are in career best form, and they're in their 30s. I think in the last 6 games, Elliott's kicked a bag of 5 4 times. So, he's definitely in the All-Australian squad at the moment. Their pressure factor, I think, was plus 50. They recorded 44 to 12 tackles in the forward half, and overall 82 to 38. So it's just an absolute domination from Collingwood, and it's going to be an absolute headache for the D's if they continue this forward pressure onto this week. If they want any chance of winning this game, the D's against the Pies, they just need to be at their very best. They just got to do all the basics right, and they probably don't want to be kicking 7 goals 21. Have to say, though, the Saints were just way too good for the D's for most of the game in Alice Springs. It was a weird game of footy, but it was a poor one for Melbourne because they were in some solid form, and you would have thought on paper they should have got the win against the Saints, but that 7 goals 21 would have been partly why they lost. It wasn't the only reason, because some of those, misses were in sort of junk time. They didn't really mean as much. Some were rushed. They did finish with 0 goals 8 though, so that is a cause of concern. They've got to reinvigorate that Sydney form that they had against the Swans a couple of weeks ago, because if they do that, they might have a chance to compete if the Pies, are slightly off. I'm going to say the Pies win by a big amount, 50 points, and I'm going to say Nick Dacos to have 35 touches and a goal as my final big call. That will determine whether or not I'm getting a stupid Rory Lobb buzz cut with bleached hair, because once again, I've never dyed my hair in my life, so I'm just going to look like such an absolute wanker, but fingers crossed. Well, with that all said, let's review quickly my tips for the week. So the buys I said before, St Kilda and Freo. I've gone the doggies by 20 points on the live stream. I'll be doing that. Remember to stay tuned. Adelaide over Brisbane. I'm tempted to do a match day vlog of this game, but I probably won't. Let's be honest. I've got to enjoy the Saturday. I got Richmond to beat Sydney. I've got Geelong to beat Gold Coast. The Giants to beat Port Adelaide. The All-Stars to beat South Australia. West Coast to beat North Melbourne. Carlton to beat Essendon. And Collingwood to beat Melbourne on the Big Freeze game. Lots of content coming over the next few weeks for you guys, so stay tuned. Check out my Alice Springs vlog. Tomorrow, my vlog on my first game of local footy will be out, and mid-season ladder prediction will be out later in the week as well. Congratulations to Owen for winning the mid-season tipping comp. Please get to me. We'll get you your prize as soon as we can. And I say we, it's just myself. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Fucking get rid of this Collingwood scarf now.